And welcome back to the Cover 3 podcast here on CBS Sports. I am your host for the day, filling in for Chip Patterson, who is once again in prison on an island in the Atlantic Ocean somewhere with his family. Joining me are Danny Cannell and Bud Elliott. Fellas, it's like I haven't seen you in months. How are you?
We literally have not seen you.
It does feel weird to have like a week where we haven't talked to each other. Like I was out Thursday, then no show on Monday. Like it does feel weird. It's like a family, miss you guys. We don't get to hang out.
I miss Chip mostly because A, I have to host today, but B, like Chip's on HQ every day. And when Chip's on vacation, I guess I'm the replacement. So it's like I've been having to go on HQ every afternoon to fill in for Chip slots. It's like, man, I'm just enjoying not doing anything for a few days. Hurry back. Bud, you weren't here last week. I mean, we've got a lot to catch up on. Not much news-wise, but you weren't here last week because you were in Orlando, I believe.
I was.
For the EA college football, getting a little bit of a peek behind the scenes. So I think today we are going to start the show by you telling us everything that you know, even the embargoed stuff. Everybody wants the information. Who cares? Get yourself in trouble. Tell us all the stuff.
Okay, so first of all, like the embargo is much stricter than it was last year. Last year,
guns trained on you right now.
Last year's basically like wait a week, and then you can basically say whatever you want. This year, it was a little more restrictive. I do think that I like a lot of the stuff they did. As someone who actually played the game online, do the dynasty thing, play the game also with my boys. Not the 3-year-old, but the 6-year-old. The 3-year-old, give him the controller. It's not hooked up. He thinks he's playing. The 6-year-old actually does play. I think they did a lot of things. So I think the couple things that I really like. One, they actually added in weather that changes as the clock changes. So if you are playing, let's say like a 4:30 kickoff game at Gopher Stadium, all right, you're going to get sun for about an hour, and then you're going to slowly descend into like total darkness, right? And I think that's something that it felt weird last year. It's like, okay, we're in the second half. Like they got the Rose Bowl sunset right, and things like that. Just some of the little touches. And I think because these guys are actually fans of the game and they play the game, they heavily monitor all the feedback, I think. And to the extent that they can try to change it, they did. They got the new playoff seating in, right, which I think is a nice upgrade, and fix some of the playoff logic as well. So maybe you won't have, like Kennesaw State and Jacksonville State and somebody else in the playoff in a weird year. Like maybe it's a little harder to get multiple G5 teams in there. Some stuff that like I can't fully talk about. Much easier to do your substitutions. I know that's a major pain in the ass for everybody who plays the game because you do the initial pause and you got to work out all your subs, right? Mm-hmm. Now you can basically preload that in to where it's faster. Right? That's one of the great annoyances they can play online. Like you're hyped up, you're ready to go, you get your opponent matched. Okay, I got to put this guy out, why is this guy here? And you almost got to memorize because you only have a certain amount of time to do it until the pause ends and you got to go back to the screen. So a lot of times you kind of got to hit the second pause and to do that, which is annoying because I want to play the game more. I don't want to have to work through these subs every single time. Did they add formation subs? Isaac in the chat asked, man, it's almost like he's got my notes here. Yes, they did. So formation-specific subs, you can actually take and sub certain guys out specifically like when they get a certain amount of tired. So I think that's kind of cool. One thing I thought would be cool if they added was like, the ability to auto sub certain players out in Dynasty if you had like a certain amount of lead, right? So maybe I don't want to have, Jeremiah Love playing a whole bunch of fourth quarter snaps if I'm up by 40, or maybe I do. Maybe I'm trying to win in the Heisman, but that's kind of cool. The largest playbook expansion in EA history. Can't fully go into that, but they added a whole bunch of new stuff. It's almost 3,000 new plays. A lot of stuff. They took out, by the way, and I can't go into exactly how to do this because this part's embargoed, I think. But if I could tell you, like, the whole double mug stuff, you can't run double mug every time and think you're going to win the ball game. I guess a good player. Like, they did a nice job of talking to coaches and players and like, hey, why does this work in the game but doesn't work in the game of real football? Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of cool. I thought there. So, a lot of like the cheese has been taken out. which is kind of cool. Something I saw, went and playing again. You could talk about the stuff you played. You really couldn't play Dynasty, so I can't go into Dynasty much yet. The DBs have a lot harder time making picks if they're not actually looking at the ball now.
So they can't intercept with their back anymore?
Right. That's which is cool. Some really cool quarterback stuff coming around. I can't tell you exactly how they did it, again, with the embargo, but pocket passers are going to matter a little bit more, I think, or better way, guys with experience and high awareness, that's going to matter a little bit more. If you are going to try to play as a super athletic, rocket arm, super green freshman quarterback, you're going to actually experience some of the ups and the downs that kid is going to have in real life, most likely. So that's kind of that's kind of nice. So a lot of the quarterback stuff, a bunch of new options as coordinators and things now. If you want like different tracks, it's much harder to be good at all of the abilities as a coach if you're in your coach mode, which I think matter. Like how many coaches are great motivating, recruiting, managing people, right? Like great. Like it's hard to be like 100% with all those. You saw this in the trailer. They have 300 licensed coaches and actually got the coaches' images right. So to the extent you care about, like, hey, I'd like to have Marcus Freeman. The guy looks like Marcus Freeman. The guy pretty much
handsome,
like Ryan Day, So that's kind of cool. They added Sandman and actually and obviously boasted about it by putting Sandman on the trailer. So new camera options, which is pretty cool. We'll have more on this coming on the channel pretty soon. I can't give you guys quite as long as it was last year. But the main thing to me, sitting down and playing the game, you can't just run the exact same play over and over again and think it's going to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or, like there's fairly obvious counters to some things because in the real game, coaches would sell out to adjust. Now, sometimes it does work. I guess if it's just such a massive advantage. But yeah, I definitely play the game.
So if you can't run every single play the same over and over again, that's terrible news for my friend Big Cat, who will now never win a national title because he only runs 3 plays his entire life. So you mentioned like they added Enter Sandman. Is that just Virginia Tech specific, or if they added like more kind of in stadium personalized music?
Seven Nation Army, Travis Scott, some other stuff too that a lot of people play. They also tried to get more contemporary music that the bands actually play. So getting the licenses to some of those songs of like, your weekly top 40 or whatever.
So we're hearing Mo Bamba now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yes. The Mo Bamba. They actually it chants Mo Bamba now too. The crowd does, which is kind of cool. So that was pretty solid. I'm scrolling here. I got a lot of stuff that I marked as probably embargoed, so I shouldn't say. You will love the tackling, I think, both as an offensive player and as a defensive player. One of the things that was still in last year's game, I think, bothered people was you could still kind of launch a dude when you were taking an angle and your momentum basically gave you no business and be able to launch a dude. That's pretty done. You actually have to take a good angle. If you want to line up a kill shot on a guy, you can do it, but you actually got to line it up. You can't it's a lot harder to just blow somebody up out of nowhere. But also I think it's easier to tackle now. Like if you're actually good on the sticks, tackling is a little bit easier. So yeah, tackling is much better. Awareness matters more. Your defensive backs who have higher awareness scores are more likely to actually recognize the play, maybe get their head around type stuff, which is cool. That kind of mimics real football a little bit more.
It's incredible to me, like how much they're able to put in games now based on the memory of like the gaming systems. It's the fact that like that you said they've got the 300 coaches and they've got all their faces. Do you know, or if you said you didn't really able to get into like the dynasty mode yet, or maybe this is embargoed, is there like the coaching carousel like there was in the 2014 versions or whatever, where like your coordinators could get poached to become a head coach somewhere else?
Yes, that is something now. And I don't know how much more I could say on that because again, they didn't let us play Dynasty, and we're supposed to talk mainly about the stuff that we actually got to play. But yeah, and I think also just less guessing from you, I would say. So, for instance, I don't have to click on 3 separate screens now to go view a player card. If I'm hovering over a player, I can always pull up the player card immediately to see what's going on with this guy. Just different stuff like that I think people will appreciate.
Danny, you want to play me?
That'd be a great game.
I feel like you and me should stream a game for the
I do. That would actually be pretty funny. I would have no idea. Is Jordan Hudson in the game? I did see somebody photoshopped her in the game, and it was really well done.
I hope so, but I didn't actually see. They didn't showcase that at EA.
Gotcha. Shockingly, that was not one of the featured highlights of the.
They're still negotiating.
Yeah.
She's demanding 7 figures for her
She was upset that it wasn't true to life.
So when does the game come out?
I should have written that down.
I'm assuming in late July or early August.
I would think so. Yeah. I'm most interested in when do we get our copy of the game as media? Like that to me is very
July. Well, that's last year.
Also, yes, EA, if you are going to send me a copy of the game, please send me a PS5 too, because I still
me too.
have the PS4
as well.
I will not buy a PS5 until they go until FIFA is only available on PS5. They're still putting it out on PS4, so that's really all I need for now. But I am kind of itching to play this game. I did not get it last year, and I sat there and I watched everybody, and I don't know, it was kind of like I don't know. It was just some weird principle thing. I'm like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. It was more discipline than anything for myself. And I didn't do it, but I have to admit the entire time listening to friends and seeing people talk about it, I was just like, just buy the damn game, stupid. I might actually pull the trigger this year.
It is fun. I did pull PS5. I did get a really, pulled an awesome dad move. So Liam wanted to play the golf game all night. It was his birthday at the beach. And, I was like, all right, man. Yeah, well, you could play as long as the PlayStation goes, but it might overheat, right? So you don't know, and they'll have to shut down and kind of rest for the night. So whenever that shuts off, just go to bed. And I don't know if he knows about sleep timers, but on the TV, that actually worked. All right, 45 minutes. He's like, oh, hey, Dad, the PlayStation has to rest. It's like, oh, okay, man. All right.
This may be a really dumb question. I don't know if it's embargoed or not, because I did see that it was an addition to the Dynasty mode. The high school Dynasty?
Yeah, this is cool.
So is that's totally new? And it looked like, from the video I saw, it looked like they have some of the bigger high school brands branded in there.
So I didn't get to see the high school branding, or if I did, I was taking notes and missed that part. But they did talk about how the athletes gave them a lot of feedback on the game. Most of it was positive, but the athletes that they worked with essentially said, hey, we think that your high school path is a significant part of your experience as a player, and that should be included. And they had space in the game to do it, so they did it.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to the game. Coming up on the other side, this is a mailbag episode, and you guys have submitted your questions, and we will get to them next.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more.
It's Gareth Bale! Wonderful goal!
On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
All right, so we've got some mailbag questions. Some listeners showed up early to the show, as they always do in the tailgate, and submitted them. This could go along with kind of what we were just discussing with EA college, football. From Stephen Melvin, who's the best non-Power 4 conference player going into 2025? If only we had the player ratings, we could just go right off of that and be like, it's this guy.
Oh, so you mean not the EA ratings, like the actual?
Mm-hmm.
So almost all the good quarterbacks got poached.
Yes.
Boise's got Maddox Matson back, right?
Maddox there. Isn't what's his name back at Memphis?
No, he graduated.
No, Hennigan graduated.
No, he's gone. You know who is back though and is healthy is Brown at USF.
Yeah. Byron Brown's healthy.
He definitely has the chance to put up some of the best stats. I don't know if he's going to be like the best guy. San Jose still got some really good players. I'm trying to think here who else. Is Daly back at Army?
Yes, I believe so.
Like I know it's the option system, but he's actually a really good player. Shoot.
Louisiana Monroe had Ahmad Hardy last year as a freshman who rushed for 1,300 yards and 13 touchdowns. I don't know if I would say he qualifies as the best player, but he's going to put up numbers. And I think that you can look at that and say he's probably going to be one of the more statistically better players in the country.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Trying to think who else here we really like.
Mekhi Hughes at Tulane. I think he qualifies, or did he he didn't transfer?
I know that's why I'm like,
that's the thing. It's hard to remember who transferred.
No, he definitely transferred to Oregon.
Oh, he did. Okay, yeah. Damn it, darn Ducks stealing all the best players from Tulane. Devin Dampier would have been my choice, but he transferred as well.
Yeah. Or Darian Mensah, who transferred.
You know who the best B5 player is? The Whoopsie Daisy King. It's Anthony Calandria.
Oh yeah,
he's gonna be.
He's got to beat out Alex Orji though.
He's gonna. Come on. Look at the guys who beat out Alex Orji at Michigan last year. I'm pretty confident Anthony Calandria will be able to beat him out. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Calandria.
That's probably a good one. Yeah.
This one is specific for you, bud.
Okay.
Right. This comes from the Apple reviews. It comes from Igloo Man 45.
Nice.
Love the show, guys. In particular, the summer school series, which I think is the best off-season content in the CFB media sphere. But every time Texas Tech is mentioned on the podcast, it seems that Bud Elliott only has negative things to say about the program. He's not a fan of Coach McGuire or Baron Morton. When the transfer class is mentioned, he always makes note that it's not actually that good. And earlier in the year, he made an odd comment that Matt Wells got a raw deal while at Tech. These comments have hurt my sensitive feelings. I challenge Bud Elliott to say 3 nice, positive things about the Texas Tech football program. This would make me feel better. Thank you, guys. I love the show.
Okay, man. I don't think I typically get hated on for hating Texas Tech, do I?
I don't know.
So
apparently, the Igloo Man, you do.
Like I think the players that Texas Tech acquired in the portal are like legitimately good college football players. I don't think the portal this year was as talented as some of the prior portals, and I know people disagree, and that's fine. We'll let the draft do the talking on that. But I do think that they significantly improved their team via the portal, so that's a positive thing to say. I don't hate Morton. It'd be nice if Morton could actually stay healthy, like consistently. Now, he played 12 games last year, but he was definitely banged up in some of them. I mean, 27-8 is nothing special, touchdown interception in that system, playing in that conference. Taj Brooks is gone, but I do like some of the guys who they've added here. I actually think they're really high on Quentin Joyner, so that could be a nice pickup from USC. I don't hate Joey McGuire. I look at the whole, like, the narrative out of Texas Tech for the longest time was, man, we're going to be so good at like scouting these Texas high schools, and like we're going to know Texas high schools better than everybody else. We're going to scout them. We have better scouting. We're all in on this GM model, and we think like we're going to exploit that inefficiency that is high school recruiting now, with everybody focused on the portal. And I look at this roster. I'm like, almost every guy that they're depending on this year is a transfer. So maybe that's just a bust, right? The whole, okay, we're actually good at the high school scouting. But again, I do think that what they've done in the transfer portal is really nice. I think like some of the guys they got in the portal on the defensive line are legitimately like really good players who would play on teams that are competing for the playoff in some of the major conferences. Like Romello Height is pretty good. I think the UCF kid they got, Lee Hunter, when he's motivated, he's really good. And I think this team will be very improved. I think they also suffered some kind of crappy injury luck last year, specifically on defense. I actually thought they were going to be better on defense than they were entering the season, and they had a bunch of guys get hurt. I 100% think Matt Wells got a raw deal. I don't think that he was underachieving there relative to what the actual resources were at Texas Tech. And I have no reason to think that if given the same, oil billionaire resources that Joey McGuire gets, that Matt Wells wouldn't do just as good or better than Joey McGuire. Like he hasn't won anything. He has no college track record really as a head coach. I don't think Joey McGuire's a bad coach. I just don't have him as a value add on my head coaching thing. I'm like, he's whatever. He used to actually play really smart to the back of the blackjack card, or, like with your little thing. I mean, like really would go for fourth downs that you're supposed to go. But unfortunately, I think some of the variants that you're going to have some positive, negative, up and down variants there. I think that kind of bit him and made him kind of gun shy. So now I don't think the game management is anything special. But I do think he's a good people person. So that's my third bullet. I think people like working for Joey McGuire. I think that that he does a nice job with that, and probably a good delegator as well. And I think with the amount of money they're spending, if they don't win the Big 12, I would fire him.
I'm going to count it. That's three. That's three.
That level of commitment. I mean, they got to be spending more money than the next 2 or 3 Big 12 teams combined.
I think Ryan had a very good point. Name a Big 12 team that doesn't think Bud hates their team, which I think is a good segue to our next question.
I do want to follow, though. I have a nice thing to say about Texas Tech. They are on the verge of a national championship.
Oh, yeah.
In softball.
Yeah.
I think that to date, and from a return on investment, not from a money line, but like when you think of boosters or billionaires, whoever it is that give money to schools, their return on investment is winning. That might be the best return on investment, especially if they win. But getting to the finals alone, they've never even been to this position. Nigeri Kennedy, like money well spent for Texas Tech to bring her in there. And they're squaring off against Texas, starts tonight. They were 16-1 odds going into the final 8. Still a little bit mad about our local sports book here who did not offer that, because I gave it out on my radio show and I couldn't get it, and I was pissed because I like that going in.
So, question, and I'm not watching college softball, but it used to be that the pitcher could pitch every game.
Oh, yeah. She'll pitch 3 games in a row. If they go 3, she'll pitch all 3. She pitched every game in the supers, every game. Like that's what, again.
So it's just
that's
full
where
on,
I think it is.
F the mule, load the wagon. Okay.
Yep.
Got it.
And that's where I think, again, I don't think there's a position in maybe any sport that you can have a greater impact than a pitcher in the circle. And they paid her. I was looking at it. Stuart Mandel and somebody else for The Athletic did a deep dive. She was paid like $1,050,024. I guess that's her number. And it was a 1-year deal, and she has another year left. So she's going to get another $1 And if she wants to enter the portal, somebody else might pay her. Like, I think the pitchers, Jordy Ball went Stanford,
from right and get her degree.
Yeah, she was at Stanford, took them twice to the World Series. And
softball players are getting 7 figures.
No.
Not all of them, just her. She's, I think, like by far and away the highest paid. But like, there was a pitcher at Oklahoma.
Like 6-10 combined.
What's that?
Do you think anybody else in softball is making 6 figures?
I think maybe Jordy Ball, who went from Oklahoma to Nebraska, she was in all everything, and she actually brought him to the supers, didn't get to the World Series. She's incredible. She was a pitcher. I think there's a couple pitchers maybe, but I don't know. Like, I would say Oklahoma is one of the biggest spenders. I doubt they have anybody making anywhere close, maybe low 6 figures, which is still incredible.
If you think about it from an enjoyment ROI, right, for your university, and also a publicity ROI, like Mahomes is going to be at these games.
Yeah.
So you're essentially getting to run free commercials on ESPN to the extent that people watch this. And even if they don't watch it live, which I think some people will, you're still going to have like all these social media companies clip Mahomes there with your program supporting it. Like, that's got to be worth $1 million advertising to Texas Tech right there. So
easily,
like, that paid off just for, like, you're still running a school on some level. I know you're running an athletic department, but also you care about the school. If you told Texas Tech, hey, we're going to get you to the softball championship and you're going to get a boatload of exposure with Mahomes.
Yeah.
That's like, how much do you think a Patrick Mahomes commercial cost? A hell of a lot more than $1 million.
Right.
So
we actually had Joey McGuire on the radio show on Monday or Tuesday. And he's great. He really is a people. I mean, it's not a knock.
Nice
he is a great, like, shake hands, kissing babies, raising money, recruiting. He is outstanding at that. He was a great interview. Like, he does a great interview. But I agree with you. I do think even Texas Tech fans, if he doesn't take them to at least where they're in the discussion for the playoff and the Big 12 championship game, I think he could be in hot water.
Joey McGuire, nice guy.
Yeah, I want to revise. I don't think I would fire him if he doesn't win the Big 12 title game.
They have to be in the
But
conversation.
if he doesn't
deep.
make it to the Big 12 title game, I would, like given that amount of resources, you can't have. I mean, I'd love to have everybody open their books, but I would bet Texas Tech spends more than the next two Big 12 teams combined.
I would agree.
Well, that goes into our next question here a little bit. This is from Brett 42891. Hey fellas, love the show. I also love the Big 12 chaos and want the parity to last as long as possible. But if you could see one program develop a significant advantage and win 3 conference titles in 4 years and firmly assert itself as the Big 12 king, who would it be? Thanks. Would it be nice guy Joey McGuire and the Texas Tech Red Raiders with all their money?
It would be TCU for me. They
Who
have a
you
lot of
would
money.
want to see as like the face, the new Oklahoma or Texas? Is that the question? Basically,
If somebody was going to just totally like run the league for like 4 or 5 years, who would it be?
you know who made that claim, right? I wonder if the question came from that because Kenny Dillingham said we can be the Clemson of the Big 12. Like we're on the up. They were a team that was kind of under the radar. They had a little bit, but I mean they're kind of similar. You know, I know Arizona State hasn't had the Natty, but they were going to Rose Bowls not that long ago. I think they have potential to be that team. I don't know if they will be or who you would want to root for, but I think they've got the potential to actually do what he's talking about.
I think if you're going to be consistent year to year to year, you need to do really well in high school, and location still matters in that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I went with TCU. I was like, all right, like really good local base, a lot of money, a lot of players who go out of state and then bounce back, like want to come home. So I would say probably TCU. You could say UCF, but like they're not going to. It's not going to start now. Like it would have to start a couple of years from now because he's rebuilding that thing. ASU, sure. Like,
That's where I think relative, like there's been this whole migration from California, you know, out of California. So they've got a lot of there. There's a lot of former professional athletes that live in the area and their kids kind of, you know, go to high school there. Some of them leave, but then you can pull a little bit from Texas, a little bit from California. Like, plus, I mean, it's a great, Tempe is a gorgeous college campus. They should be able to recruit
There's
there
a lot of
well.
lovely scenery.
Yes,
in
exactly.
Tempe, just incredible, like cacti and mountains and other beautiful things to look at. I kind of lean with you, Bud. If it's not TCU, I would say it's probably more likely to be one of the Texas schools, just because like the conference has expanded out geographically, but I still feel like that state is the heart of the league. So whether it would be like a TCU or a Houston, or if Texas Tech keeps the money wagon going, or, you know, I like Baylor, I don't know because it's private. So I don't know if it could ever truly kind of develop into that, but maybe. But I would lean one of those schools. I would also say a dark horse, just based on what I've seen with them do in basketball NIL in recent years, BYU. If they've got a lot of money, and if they decided to just pour it all into football, maybe they could get there. I don't know, but I honestly don't think that you can. I think that this is just going to be a very fun league for a very long time.
What about Utah?
I think because
Utah is a school
that's going to be interesting.
Because Utah was, I mean, they were winning multiple Pac-12 championships, and that was everyone, mine included, last year was like they should step in and dominate. Then they don't, but I also know there's uncertainty with Kyle Whittingham's future, but I do feel like they're a program that could be, you know, one of those programs too. That's why it's a great league, because we're talking about all these schools and there's a legit chance for all of them to take the reins.
If you had to like bet your house that this team would not win the Big 12, like how many would you confident, like,
ooh, you would,
I mean, where do you cut it off? Like UCF, Oklahoma State, Arizona, West Virginia, Houston, Cincinnati, Colorado, Kansas. Like I start to get real nervous around Kansas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I'm just, you know, I don't really, I mean, Cincinnati, maybe if they stayed like perfectly healthy, I don't think so, but Colorado, almost certainly not. Unless Salter, like, or unless Juju are just like immediately studs, and that defense is really good somehow.
I went too soon. I answered for what I thought you were going to ask. Like, what's the one program you felt like could never become that program? So when I said West Virginia, that's what I meant. I'm not comfortable saying West Virginia can't win the league this year.
Right. There's 9 teams that I think you can make a legitimate case to win the Big 12 this year.
Mm-hmm.
And last year we probably would have said the same thing, but would not have had Arizona State, right?
Correct.
Definitely. And I did Arizona State yesterday with Chris Cartman on summer school, and like in prepping for that, a couple things went really right for them. Obviously, like Scatterbo had 340 touches, so that was helpful because he's a really good player. Levitt played up to his ceiling almost immediately, and we knew because I visited Arizona State in like start of spring practice last year that they liked Levitt better than Rashada, so they were not shaken up over losing Rashada like at all. But at the same time, like they also stayed super healthy, which was a major departure from where they were the prior 2 years. Prior 2 years, it was not good at all as far as injury wise. So I think they could be a better team this year and not have the same record. But who knows?
Here's an interesting question I received on Twitter this morning when I was fielding them. And yeah, I can see the replies when I look for them. Okay. I just have to look for them. From Nathan Carroll. Everyone speculates who the next blue blood is. Who's the next Nebraska? Storied program with titles that fades into mediocrity. Nathan says, for what it's worth, his bet is Oklahoma.
Ooh.
Which I think I kind of said that last year and got in trouble. So I'll find a different school to say this year.
So Nebraska has what? Not won a conference title in how many years?
In like 20, I want to say off the top. When did Sue play? Like 2008?
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say like 16 years or so, probably.
And they won multiple national titles like in the last 40.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the only teams really that are likely to be that who won multiple national titles in the last 40 are what? Miami and FSU and Clemson. As far as like teams that are outside.
And Oklahoma.
USC. Yeah. Oklahoma would fit. I think Oklahoma's pretty invested though. Like they spin up this year. If Venables doesn't win, I bet you they'll fire him this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean win like decently big. I don't think they're going to keep him at 7-5.
And what's the difference in Nebraska and Miami?
Access
already.
to talent, I guess.
No, but I mean already, like they kind of already are.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I know they're close, but they've kind of been, I mean, they've had more success for sure recently than Nebraska has. But if those programs are looking to contend for national titles, neither one has in the last 20 years.
I think Oklahoma makes the most sense, but I would go for USC as my number 2. I mean, it's been a long time since Pete Carroll was winning there. And they've had good seasons, but they have never really been able to maintain the success. And I think there are so many other factors that are in play right now in that, like Oregon becoming a powerhouse and other programs are now recruiting in California at a rate that they weren't before. And then I think, USC entering the Big Ten kind of really changes a lot of things for them as far as where they can recruit and how they have to handle things. I feel like it's become a lot more difficult to win there. Whereas for a while, it just kind of felt like it was a program where it was a, turnkey program. You show up, you get talent, you win football games. And I'm not sure that's the case anymore. So I'm not saying they can't get back to it, but there's a lot more evidence in the last 20 years that they won't than that they will.
What about Auburn?
I don't know if I would consider them a blue blood kind of, but I mean, obviously they've shown they can compete for national titles. So I guess that would make them qualify for this. So yeah, I would argue. They
played for 2 and won 1. I'm just trying to think of like teams that are kind of close to it, right? Or they played for 3 and won 1 of them.
Yeah. Like
right. Or they played for 2. They played for 2 and won 1. They beat Oregon.
They beat Oregon. They lost Florida State.
Okay.
I wonder if you could argue that was just the peak of their program.
That's possible.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a good question, and it's good.
Penn State's an interesting one from Brian. He said if Penn State doesn't win this year.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, but that has also been a long time since they won. And yeah, no, I'd say Penn State, that's a good one. And it is kind of a big year for them, considering all that they have and like the way the schedule breaks and how Michigan, Oregon, and Ohio State all have a lot of changes. Yeah. See, my thing with Penn State is I feel like they're a contender in the Big Ten to win the Big Ten this year. I still don't look at them as a national title contender, realistically, even with everything they have coming back. Do you guys feel differently, or?
Somewhat differently, because there's no guarantee that the quarterback that needs to take the leap on some of these elite teams actually will. And I think if Drew Aller actually takes a leap, then they could win a title. I do think the talent is more spread out among the top teams than it normally is. But I don't have them like top 3 or 4 for my title odds. I don't think their upside is, as high as some of these others.
Daniel,
The program?
do you think Penn State can compete for a national title this year?
Yes, I do.
Why?
I mean, they were close last year. They have the most returning talent of like guys committed, sort of the similar mindset that you heard out of Michigan 2 years ago, Ohio State last year. I do think there's value in that, bringing back the key players. And I think like when you're looking at all the instability, they're the one that has some stability especially a quarterback. Now Drew Aller has to take that massive step forward, but I mean, I know the game was ugly, but they were still close to getting to the national championship last year.
Thing is, though, if they had straight seeding last year, I mean, they would have had a bye, but they're probably they're facing the winner of. They're probably playing Notre Dame in the second round, or in their first playoff game. So it's like I do think you have to consider the fact that they got SMU and then Boise State in their first 2 games that helped them get to the semis. But I don't know. My concern is kind of like what Bud was saying. I've seen Drew Aller play poorly against good teams too often. And unless he takes a significant leap forward, I just have a hard time imagining he's going to play that team's going to get, to that point where they can win a national title. Here's one. This is from Brad in the chat. Good morning, y'all. Cover 3. I'm old-fashioned, and I love a good college football preseason preview magazine. Which one would you all recommend? And, Bud, is this something on the horizon for 24/7 to do?
So, I still buy Phil Steele.
Yeah.
I like having the paper copy sometimes. I think sometimes it's good to put down the phone or computer screens and actually just, have your notebook and kind of go over things. I think it helps set my mind different. Sometimes I print out articles and go out on the porch and read them just to, kind of get a different perspective on things. I don't really read other ones because it's just a time factor. And because the spring portal and the portal in general, I think has kind of really screwed with the timelines we can put these things out. But I know there are some out there that do a good job, right? Athlon and Lindy's are always kind of classic. If I'm at the beach or something, maybe I'll snag it, right? Mm-hmm. Especially if you're at one of the spots on the beach with poor cell service. I don't think it makes a lot of business sense for 24/7 to do that. The shelf life on those is so small, and you need distribution is a challenge on that. I will say 24/7 does or did do write-ups for, and this is bad on me. I should, I should know this. I used to get hit up to do a write-up or 2, and I don't actually remember who it's for, but we do it, and I actually do put effort into it. But so we are represented in one of the magazines as some kind of business partnership.
I love these. So I definitely think they serve their purposes, right? Like Phil Steele's is very informational, right? Like you can see all the schedules there. It's perfect. It's very informational. I kind of like the opinion ones. I don't know which ones, if it's Lindy's or Athlon's, I get them all. Like as soon as they come out, I'll go to Barnes & Noble, scoop them all up. And there's some that you take and read on the beach, like just for casual reading. I forget which one it is that has all the anonymous coaches. And they'll be like, I talked to this coach who ripped this one. I didn't think that quarterback was tough to defend at all, but they never put their name on it. I do like that one. I don't know if that's Lindy's or Athlon, but they're both really good.
Yeah, I still get Phil Steele every year. That's kind of like just a reference. Really like when I'm sitting on the couch on a Saturday, I can quickly pull that up and just look up something real quick as far as like a depth chart or just the roster, that kind of situation. I will answer like the latter one, like you touched on, Bud. It's just not financially viable for most people. Like CBS put out a magazine for like a year or 2. We were putting out like a preview magazine and lost a lot of money on that son of a bitch. Like that's we don't do that anymore because you don't see a lot of magazines coming out these days. You've seen more magazines go online than you are seeing publishing and putting out paper copies. And I think that for Athlon and Lindy, they still make money on their annual college football previews because like we do still buy them. And I think Phil Steele clearly makes money on his previews. And then I think if you're doing like a specific team, like I know I contribute like every year the Wolverine, it's a Michigan preview magazine. I contribute to that every year. They ask me a bunch of questions and they put it in there. I think if you have a designed or designated audience that will purchase the product, it's willing to put it out. It's just, I think as far as a national publication right now for 24/7 or for anybody else, it'd be really hard to get in there and make money just because of limited time. And as Bud mentioned, the fact that you can't get to press until late because you got to wait for all these transfers to go through and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I love them for the nostalgia reasons. I think that practically you can find everything you need online now. So,
it was hilarious. I used to do First Take when I was at ESPN, and they would have some sort of like they are not a college football show at all. And Stephen A would have the magazine in front of him, like right while we're doing the segment. And I was like, oh boy, this is going to be interesting. Cause he's like looking down, he's like seeing, like checking the names, making sure he gets them right, like right before. But then, he's such an emphatic take artist. He'd be like, well, you can't tell me that this quarterback isn't going to be incredible for Nick Saban this season. He completed 51, whatever it was. Like it was hilarious to see him just work his magic with the college football magazine right in front of him.
Go ahead. The chat saying Dave Campbell in Texas is good. I know of it. I have not seen it.
I'm not
Street
in
and
Texas.
Smiths. That's a good question. Do they still exist?
Which one?
Not Street and Smiths. I remember that one from back in the day.
I don't
I have some covers.
So to make the playoff odds drop today.
Ooh.
Say most of this, but who do you think has the second best odds to make it in the G5?
James Madison.
Overwhelming.
UNLV.
Is it James Madison?
It is. No.
UNLV? Because Boise has the highest. Boise has the best, right?
Yeah.
Boise
by far.
Memphis?
Tulane?
Tulane. Yeah.
Tulane.
Oh, okay.
790. This is like going to be a wide open. If Boise stumbles at all, we have a crazy open race.
Yeah, we did have a question that was kind of pertaining to that about like who do we think the G5 dark horses are to reach the college football playoff, and I do feel like almost all of them are dark horses. That's why I didn't include it on the show.
Yeah. All right. Here's a fun either or for you guys if we can. Who has better odds to make the college football playoff? Louisville or South Carolina?
Louisville, easier path.
Yeah, plus 300 versus plus 400.
Yeah.
Who has better odds to make the playoff? Tennessee or South Carolina?
It has to be Tennessee, right?
It should be South Carolina, but I'm betting it's Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
I would take South Carolina's odds over Tennessee's at this point, but who knows?
All right, Tennessee or Florida?
Don't tell me Florida's got better odds than Tennessee.
No, Tennessee's almost twice as likely to make the playoff
Okay.
than Florida compared to this.
Okay.
Which is
The odds makers, like I know Florida's a very trendy pick and they're showing up in a lot of preseason top 25s, but the win total, they're not as optimistic as everybody else, right?
they're like one of those teams that like, I think I'd rather just bet for the Natty because everything goes right. Like I did their summer school. It's like, man, I like the upside a lot, but there's a lot of ifs on this team. Like if the receiving core is something, if Lagway is actually healthy and gives you a full season of games, you know, if the defense takes a step. But I mean, I think they're like the potential is there, certainly. You know, who has the best odds to make the playoff? Illinois, Indiana, or Iowa?
I bet it's Indiana.
It's actually your Illini, 590 to 610.
Trying to keep them humble.
Should
I'd say
Michigan
Illinois
have
50 to
3
1.
times the chance to make the playoff that Illinois has?
No.
I don't think so either.
Although it's kind of a similar situation to what we just discussed with Florida. Like if Bryce Underwood and that offense hits the ceiling, they're going to be pretty damn good. All right, we should hit a break here. Coming up on the other side, a few more of your questions. Next.
Get ready.
Wait a second. I thought we were going tubing.
All 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and Knuckles are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
And everyone loves it.
Every adventure,
Just try to keep up.
every face-off,
This ends now.
and every moment that will have you saying,
Where have you been? My entire life!
It's showtime.
All 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and the entire Sonic universe are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
I agree, Corey. That was an elite transition. And speaking of elite transitions, we just talked about Illinois before the break. So our next question has to do with Illinois. It came to me on Twitter from Texas Outsider. Why or how is Bret Bielema succeeding at Illinois but failed miserably at Arkansas? Both are kind of the same tier of program, and I'd argue Arkansas is historically better. Well, Texas Outsider, I will agree with you that they're on the same tier of program. I will disagree with you on Arkansas being historically better, seeing as how Illinois has won 2.5 times as many national titles as Arkansas has, and Illinois has actually won a conference title this century. So I would disagree with that. But as to your question, to me, the biggest difference is Illinois knows what it is. Arkansas doesn't. Illinois knows that it's a program that's not supposed to be competing for conference titles and needs to build up to there, so they're having more patience. Whereas if you look at Bret Bielema's record at Arkansas, it really isn't all that different to what Sam Pittman's been doing, and it really isn't all that different to what he's been doing at Illinois. It's just after he had the one terrible season, they fired him. At Illinois, they won 8 games, went backwards, didn't fire him, kept him around. He won 10 games. Now the program's humming a little bit more. And I'd also argue, just like he's got 2 kids now, I think his first kid was born his final season at Arkansas. I would argue off the field, life is a little more calm and collected for Bret, which has helped him on the field at Illinois, and kind of, a few years away in the NFL probably helped him get his stuff back together as far as how to run a college program. And I think that that is part of it. But I also think you could argue part of it is the SEC is a more difficult league to win in, especially when you're not the top tier program. And I would say that that kind of caught up. But if I think overall, compared to how the other coaches have done at Arkansas, I'd say Bret's record at Arkansas is pretty much in line with what everybody's done at Arkansas.
Except for Petrino, which is what they thought was going to be the new norm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think they kind of, and you get used to that. You get 2 seasons and you're like, oh, this is what we should be every year. And then you have one bad year and you're gone. Because I do wonder if they had stuck with Bret after that 4-8 year, if maybe he would have been able to get back to 7 or 8 wins and you kind of build some momentum and let people build as opposed to making that quick switch. Do you think it's harder? Shearman put in the chat, Arkansas is really a hard place to recruit. What do you think is harder to recruit to, Arkansas or Illinois?
Arkansas.
What are your goals? Like, is your goal to win the SEC or like win the conference? They're both like really, really hard to recruit to.
Right.
I wonder if Bret fits the Northern culture a little more, like the way,
Possibly,
like his team building, the way he relates to players. Like there is something to that.
Yeah, and I think like the recruiting question is like Arkansas has the SEC working for it, which does work well in recruiting. But Arkansas, as far as its own backyard, does not have, I'm not saying there's no talent in the state, but as far as compared to the states around it, it is not nearly as fertile. Whereas Illinois, it doesn't have what you have in Georgia, Florida, Alabama, like as far as 5-star talent is concerned. But there are 5 stars and there are highly rated 4 stars in the state. The problem has been for Illinois over the years that, the Notre Dames, the Michigans, the Ohio States just come and pluck those guys. And then Iowa, Wisconsin, and even Minnesota in the first start of the PJ Fleck era, we're getting a lot of the more rated guys that you weren't really picking up the developmental projects. And Illinois, particularly under Lovie Smith, completely abandoned the state. Bielema has made recruiting the state a priority. And they're starting to get much more, success as far as not just getting the 3 stars, but getting those 4 and 5 stars and being in the hunt and kind of keeping them away from the other quote unquote blue bloods. So I do think that it's easier to recruit to Illinois because, there's more talent available to you in your backyard. Whereas if you're in Arkansas, you're still competing with LSU, you're still competing with Alabama, you're still competing with Georgia and all those programs. So yeah, I'd argue that it's a little easier at Illinois.
Can we also like examine the dynamics that were at play in the SEC West when Petrino was killing it at Arkansas? Because I think this is fairly instructive, and I know we got to move. But so he was there 2008 to 2011. Okay, he went 5-7, 8-5, 10-3, 11-2. So back-to-back BCS Bowl. Was the Cotton Bowl a BCS game in 2011?
No, I don't believe so.
But I think it was. It
all
obviously is now.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mississippi State was coming off the Sylvester Croom era. So Mullen had just gotten there and had just started building. Okay, so like 2 of those years, Mississippi State was 4-8 and 5-7. And one of them they were 7-6. They were decent in the 1 year. So not a lot of competition there in division. Now 08, 09 was the real start of when Houston Nutt was winning, and then it cratered. 10 and 11, they went 4-8 and 2-10. And then you look at computer won't freeze. Damn it! You ever like double click a tab and have it like auto close? So all right, pull that up. Then it was the Mike Sherman era, exactly mirroring Petrino's thing: 4-8, 6-7, 9-4, 7-6. Trying to think what Auburn did then, but I'm pretty sure they won a natty and then sucked in the other years pretty hard. So, I mean, Bielema didn't get that. All the other teams around him didn't completely suck when he got that job following Petrino.
Fact is, Bielema rules. Arkansas sucks. No, I'm kidding. Jesus. All right, here's a nice one to get us out of here with. Which do you this is from Jordan Lewis on Twitter. Which do you prefer, going to your team's game in person or watching them and other games at home? Danny?
We're so spoiled because we get to do both. You know, we get to be in Big Ten championship. We get to be on site for some. If I could only choose one, I would probably choose home. But I love going to a game. You know, like I still love the experience, but
I think it's go to the game. I mean, NFL at home is a better experience. I think college in person, I want to go to. Now, I think it's really hard to do the night recap show if you're at games.
Yes.
Right? You can't go to many.
Yes.
Because you need to be able to watch them all. I don't listen typically to podcasts or recap shows if I know that person was just at one game. You know, like it's very hard. Like you tell me you can actually watch 10, 20 games and get an idea what happened. You know, unless you have like a crazy producer crew working for you, in which case you're not really watching, you're just reading the recaps or listening to them.
I would say for this job being at home, because I do say, like, I love going to a college football game when I can, but for me, it's more the experience of the tailgating and being there. It's like, if you want to actually watch the football, it's kind of hard to really keep track of everything that's going on when you're in the stadium compared to when you're at home watching it on television. So if it's for work, I'd much rather be at home because I can keep track of everything going on. If I don't have to care about anything else that's happening, I would rather be at the game. And tomorrow we will not be live, but we will have a summer school. But what's coming up in the summer school schedule? Because I know you are still hard at work cranking these mothers out.
Oh, I am. Let me see. So tomorrow, published dates. We have. Who do we have? What's today? The 4th. So we have Illinois tomorrow, Tom.
Yeah.
Look at that, man.
Talk about how Arkansas sucks.
That was a fun one. And then Friday, we have a special West Coast double drop with UCLA and USC for your weekend. Virginia Tech over the weekend. Don't want to call them Vatech. And then Boston College on Sunday. And then Tuesday, a Big Ten double drop of Wisconsin and Michigan State, two programs facing some pivotal years.
I know I said we had our final question, but this one's too good to pass up. From Tariq Badur. Did any of us get invited to Pate's wedding? No. Danny did.
You did.
Yeah. Thanks, Josh. I assume my invitation got lost in the mail.
No, I think your zip code is too far north.
Yeah, it's true. He probably didn't expect.
I still don't know if his wife is real. I mean, AI advancements and stuff. You know, I mean, I don't know. He posts a lot of videos. I don't know if she's real or not. You know, it's all one elaborate ruse to make him look cooler.
All Danny, right. we met her, Danny.
She's too attractive for him.
That I could certainly agree with. All right, well, that wraps it up, gentlemen. Thank you for dealing with me, and thank you to our listeners for dealing with my wonderful transitions. Don't worry, after our summer schools this weekend, we will be back live on Monday, and Chip will be back hosting live on Parole. So we will see you then, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your weeks, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.
See you guys.